If you're a business owner, you don't need us to tell you running a business is tough. Don't let QuickBooks and spreadsheets slow you down anymore. Now is the time to upgrade to NetSuite by Oracle, the world's #1 cloud business system. NetSuite gives you the visibility and control over your financials, HR, inventory, e-commerce, and more. Join the over 21,000 companies using NetSuite right now. Schedule your free product tour right now at netsuite.com/C-suite. netsuite.com/C-suite.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Superhero Homies podcast. My name is Quentin, and as always, I'm here with the homie Kevin.
Hey everybody, hope your day is going pretty well. Hopefully you're in a great mood to listen to another Wednesday night podcast. Hell yeah. Or Thursday morning, or whatever day it is for you.
Right.
Yeah.
I guess, in other words, hope you guys are ready for another comic book edition podcast, where we'll be discussing this time the House of M.
Exactly. Indeed.
This is one of those really fun and great crossover events between X-Men and Avengers coming together. This is a really good one. You know, I may have said this a time or two before already on the podcast, but I really feel like this time period, you know, from like 04 to maybe 09, possibly 2010, like there was a really strong
creative force in the comic writing world.
It was some of the best writing that they had during that time period to me. I mean, between like Brian Michael Bendis, his entire run of New Avengers, I thought was great. The House of M, Civil
Bendis
War.
is awesome.
Yeah.
I haven't read any of his stuff I haven't liked. You know.
Yeah. And then of course there's he didn't do Civil War, but that was Mark Miller. But I mean, there's you know, even the Planet Hulk stuff and World War Hulk. I mean, there's just so much good Marvel stuff that came from that time period. And House of M is one of those things, you know, it's one of those really great reads, you know, because it stands for something, and it really begs the reader to ask a lot of questions that I'm so grateful that they have us ask.
Actually, I'm glad you bring that up, because I found myself thinking a little too deeply at times about some of the questions and the legitimate concerns, the almost real world concerns brought up in this fictional tale, you know? Things that made me go way too deep into it, just like, well, shit, what would I do if this was like the alternate universe and my real version is... And I just kept digging further and further into the rabbit hole, like, oh, daggone, man. It's
that's what a good X-Men read should have you do. Like a couple weeks ago when we covered God Loves, Man Kills, there's not very many other comic books in general that make me think harder than that one, just because it's so relatable.
Yeah.
You know, this one, of course, is a little more far-fetched and a little bit more out there than God Loves, Man Kills, but it still does beg a lot of questions, especially, you know, in this day and age. It really makes you wonder, like, how many... it really would make people think twice about maybe certain viewpoints they have.
Exactly.
You know, like if the roles were reversed.
It makes you ask a lot of the key what-if questions, you know, the things that make you actually, you know, delve deeper into your mind frame, your opinions, and really helps you to kind of flourish and become more open-minded, really, if you get something good out of it.
Right.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. So in preparation for this podcast, I of course not only read House of M, but I also had to read the part of the New Avengers run.
Okay.
Because Brian Michael Bendis had a perfect setup for it, and at the end of the Avengers run, so at the very beginning of his run on Avengers, it's like Avengers issue 500 through 503, and it's in those comic issues where we really see what leads to the breakdown of Wanda Maximoff.
Right, because they kind of just jettison us all straight into her tragedy and the telling of what the hell just happened to her and where she is presently for this. So that, I'm sure, would be a very fascinating, like, prequel to this graphic novel.
Right, and because to me, like, there was a time, like, previously, before preparation of this podcast, where I would get the two intertwined because they flow together so well.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's just a really interesting thing. And if you guys don't mind, I'm going to run through that really quick.
Hit us up, man. Hell yeah. Obviously, you had the book, so I did not get to read it because you are my library where I just rent out books from you. Right now, I'm holding his House of M, ladies and gentlemen. And what do you know? It is still not mine. So yeah, please hit us up.
So it starts, and they don't technically have a name for this. Like I said, it's just Avengers issue 500 through 503.
Sure.
I call it One Bad Day, and I know that's typically
Thank you for adding the one before that. Otherwise, Daniel Pewter would have been going through my mind.
Wow.
Yeah, well, think about it. He wrote that one hit.
I mean,
song,
I guess I'm just
a
little disappointed that came to your mind instead of the Joker. But whatever.
Well, hey, I mean, you have more experience there with that. I remember hating the song because it was getting trapped in everyone's head.
How can a song get stuck in your head if no one knows the words?
Just the hook. That's all it needs, man. You're right, though. I don't remember anything except the main hook.
You had a bad day.
Exactly. And then something about telling a lie, I think. And then you wrote a sad song. And after that, I'm lost. Maybe something about crying, because that rhymes with lying. So I can see that maybe. But lyrically, outside of that, wow.
Yeah.
Over my head.
But anyways, this... so Avengers 500, it starts off with like 4 or 5 of our Avengers. They're just chilling in Avengers Mansion. Of course, funded and made by Tony Stark and all that. Jarvis is also there somewhere. But it's Hawkeye, is Ant-Man, or it's technically Scott Lang Ant-Man.
Okay.
We have She-Hulk, Wasp, and Captain Britain, the female Captain Britain, not the male Captain Britain.
Okay.
But so we have these 5 Avengers just chilling out, and they're just shooting the shit. And it's kind of funny in the beginning because Hawkeye, he gets a lot of fun stuff here and also in House of M. But it's Hawkeye. He's starting off, and it's really Wasp and She-Hulk that are kind of grilling him. It starts off with them like, really, you would go for that, really? And it's like, well, yeah. You don't think she's cute? He's talking about how his one forbidden lust.
Right.
And he's saying that it would be Madam Hydra, aka Viper. He's saying that would be like the one that he would go for.
Kind of like a dominatrix vibe, I guess. Who knows? Yeah. I do remember reading this forever ago, though. Yeah. That comes up to me because I remember like the large window panel in the background and whatnot, and they're all just doing exactly what you said, chilling. Being more human than hero at the moment.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's just a really funny Hawkeye moment.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden, the alarm goes off in the Avengers HQ mansion, and come to find out, up on the cameras, they see that Jack of Hearts he shows up at the Avengers front gate. And now the reason why this is so pivotal and important is because Jack of Hearts is dead. Okay,
right.
He exploded. So Jack of Hearts, he's one of those. He was an okay character. He had some pretty cool abilities. One of his main abilities was be able to really expound cosmic energies. Okay. But the problem is, whenever he's in Earth's atmosphere, he has to leave every so often because he really has a lot of energy that he needs to get rid of, or has to be in recluse away from people. And it got to the point where he was spending up to 14 hours a day by himself.
Wow.
And he just couldn't stand it anymore. But the last thing that Jack of Hearts did before he died was he saved Scott Lang's daughter.
Okay.
He saved little Cassie, or Cassandra, or whatever you want to call her.
Sure.
Before he exploded because of all the energy he had stored up.
I wonder if we'll ever see that in the MCU anywhere. But
I doubt. I mean, he's just so...
Yeah, I mean, I agree.
But so that's something that's happened earlier on in the Avengers run. But now here he is showing up again,
right? And everyone's flipping out.
Yeah, they're like, "What? How is Jack Hart here? Like he's
remember the
dead.
sequence here now. Yeah,
and and the first one out there, of course, is Scott Lang because. Jack Hart saved his daughter, and he wants to thank him for it. He never got the opportunity to. And Scott, he's out there. He's talking with Jack, And Jack he's also like zombified in the face. Like he's not.
He looks like he's decomposing.
Right.
Yeah.
And the only thing that Jack says is, "I'm sorry," and then he explodes again, killing Scott Lang. So yeah, Scott Lang dies. He dies hard.
Yeah.
In the explosion.
That wasn't laugh necessary. I accidentally chuckled.
Yeah, he did. I was like, that's kind of weird. Okay.
Well, I'm remembering what happens afterwards and afterwards and afterwards. It's literally like, what the hell? And in my mind, I'm thinking, wow, okay, of course that would happen. But, no, Scott Lang died. That's unfortunate.
So
yes.
Jack Hart explodes, seemingly dying again, and Scott Lang is now dead. And then we pan over to Tony Stark. He's at the UN meeting because at this point he's like the Secretary of Defense for the United States. As well as also funding the Avengers and all that, and being openly Iron Man. But while he's there, he has Wanda Maximoff with him, and also Hank Pym is there as well. I guess they're kind of like the other delegates with him. But as he's presiding over this UN meeting, he starts to kind of lose his shit a little bit when he looks over and he sees the Latvian delegate. Because the Latvian delegate isn't doing anything, but of course, when you think of Latveria, you think of Doctor Doom and about all the heinous shit that Doctor Doom has done.
I know, right? Yeah. I mean, he wasn't wrong in some of the stuff he said. The way he presented it was just like, whoa, back off, Tony. Come on, man. This isn't the place,
Right.
It's like you don't have a fight in church. Come on, come on.
Or do. I think you actually do. Kingsman definitely showed me that it's okay to have a fight in church.
Only if Freebird is playing, though. If Freebird is playing, you're okay everywhere you are. It don't matter where you are.
But Tony, he starts to sweat, starts to shake, kind of starts to slur his words a little bit too. And he starts going off with this Latvian delegate who really doesn't have a name here. But he starts saying that, look at this guy looking all smug. He's just a piece of shit. Things like that. And he raises up, because he's in the Iron Man suit, but he doesn't have the helmet on. But he raises up an arm like he's going to, blast a repulsor beam at him. And T'Challa's there representing Wakanda, of course. And he kind of gets up and he stands between Tony Stark and the delegate. And it's like, listen, you need to calm your shit, man.
Yeah.
Like, if you do this, there's no going back. And Tony talks a little bit more shit, and then he finally steps down from the podium. Hank Pym, gets up there and tries to do damage control. And then once they're kind of behind the scenes, Tony, he can't believe what just happened. And Wanda's like, you were drunk up there. And Tony's like, no, well, I was, but I wasn't. He goes, I promise you, I haven't had a drink in forever. I've been sober. I have not had a drink.
Which is a very emotional point for old Stark, considering his backstory, but that's for another time.
Yeah. And so that was a weird thing that happened. And of course, it didn't do any favors for Tony Stark or the Avengers.
Right.
Him having that meltdown and threatening to kill a Latvian delegate at a UN meeting.
Or really the States.
Yeah. Didn't do...
A lot of people got screwed over on that.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the next thing we get here is that we go back to the Avengers mansion. And at this point, Captain America and a couple others are here. And they're discussing what happened. And, they can't believe that Jack Hart wasn't dead and he came back. And now Scott Lang is dead. And they're trying to piece everything together here because it's already a tragedy.
Yeah.
But then they see a Quinjet coming in. And they're thinking, oh, who else is coming? And Captain America is looking up and he's like, huh. So that's weird. What? They're coming in quick. They're coming in really quick, wherever it is. And as Captain America is looking up, he realizes that Vision is flying the Quinjet, and Vision crash lands the son of a bitch right into the mansion. So there hasn't been enough explosions today already at this mansion.
Dick move, Vision.
Here's another one. And then Vision gets out and he says some really cryptic shit. Vision, he begins to say things like, I understand now. I now know why we failed and why we will continue to fail. I know why we're being punished. He goes, I am so sorry, but know that this isn't of my own doing. And I wish there was another way, but there's not. And then Vision kind of begins to almost melt. Almost like he has no bones or no kind of structure holding his body together.
Yeah.
And from his body comes 5 little spheres. and these spheres sprout up to become 5 Ultron bots. And so now we have the Avengers, or a handful of the Avengers, that are having to battle these Ultron bots.
I know, right? It's like, oh shit, well now Jack of Hearts came up in here and blew up our stuff. Vision crashed into our stuff. And now we got Ultron bots?
Yeah.
Come on, you know?
Right.
Like, it's the king of worst scenario ever.
It is. And
but so wait, that's not all.
That's not all. And so now there's more questions and more bullshit that they have to put up with.
Right.
Because 5 Ultron bots is nothing that you really want to deal with. And so at this point, you know, we don't have Jack Hartz or Scott Lang at this point.
Right. Or Vision.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or Vision. But we do have Captain America, I believe Falcon's there. We have Hawkeye, Wasp, She-Hulk, and maybe 1 or 2 more. Captain Britain's there too.
She-Hulk, I forgot. Oh,
yeah. And they're fighting these Ultron bots, and Captain America, being the strategist that he is, realizes that with these certain bots, if you go for the neck, that's their weak spot. You can cut the head off right there. And so that's what they begin to do, and She-Hulk begins to rage out over just the sheer thought that she's lost some teammates, and now Vision has come here and done the unimaginable, and now Ultron is back, and they're not getting any answers, and she just rips these bots to shreds. And then she begins to Hulk out. I know that she's She-Hulk, but she really hulks out.
Right.
Like, she begins to grow in size and in mass, and even her facial structure begins to resemble that of the Hulk even more, which is a little disturbing. And
like full-on Rage Hulk, not in control She-Hulk Hulk.
Right.
Yeah.
And she picks up the Vision corpse, and she's just yelling at it, questioning it, and asking what's going on. Why did you do this? What is this all about? And Captain America is trying to calm her down, but she's not having it. He tries to tell her, look, put Vision down. Put the corpse down. Instead, she rips it in half. And Captain America says, if you don't calm down, we'll put you down, Avenger or not. And then, of course, they have to fight She-Hulk. And fortunately for the Avengers, Tony Stark, he gets word of what's going on. And he comes back in, and he's able to help put down She-Hulk. But at this point, like, there's been so much damage that's been done now.
Yeah.
During the melee, She-Hulk, she actually swatted Wasp, put her in a coma, and so yeah,
she swatted the Wasp.
She did. Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So at this point, there's a little break in all the chaos. But the problem with break in chaos is that it gives you time to reflect.
Yeah.
And think about what's happened.
Right.
Yeah.
Really, you're in the eye in the storm in this point, because
you really are.
You finish the physical part of the storm. You're in the peaceful. Let me relax. Oh shit! What's the, the collision here? What's the runoff? What is the consequence of all this shit? And then you're in the emotional storm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's like no kind of rest here.
Nope.
But it's during this point where we get a lot of really cool dialogue. For one thing, we get to see Hank Pym, at Wasp's bedside. Wasp, she's still in her small form, and so that makes it difficult for the surgeons to know what to do with her because they can't really operate or anything. And Hank Pym, he's there, and he's just lamenting, feeling like the bad husband that he was, talking about their relationship and when things went wrong. I mean, he gets really deep. He even goes to say that, at one point Hank says, the only thing that I'll ever be remembered for is creating Ultron. And, he just goes really deep with it, and he gets really upset, about everything that's happened with him and Wasp. And then outside, there's like Tony Stark, Captain America, Falcon, Hawkeye, and they're talking, and about everything that's going on. And Tony, he begins to try to tell them that, hey guys, I think that maybe all of this just isn't a shitty day. I think that maybe this is on some scale, maybe coordinated. Mm-hmm. And it's at this point where Hank Pym, who was an emotional wreck also, he comes out of the hospital, and he greets the other Avengers, and he immediately just goes off. He goes, tell them, Tony, tell them the truth, tell them what you did. And it's at this point where it's revealed to the other Avengers that Tony had a meltdown at the UN.
Right. Tony
says that he thinks it's part of this organized attack that's happening on them. Hank Pym says that's bullshit. Don't you dare put this on your, lack of sobriety.
Right. So in other words, Hank's anger problem is coming back. essentially.
Well, Hank's anger problem's coming back, but he does also have a good point. I mean,
He's got a great point. It's balancing,
right?
But it is Hank definitely reacting more emotionally here than logically.
I think it's equal because the logical thing here is to think that Tony, you were drinking again.
Yeah.
I mean, the logical thing wouldn't be to think that there's some magical chaos at work here.
I can see that, yeah. I can see that. But at the same time, I can also see that same magical chaos that they're not believing in, affecting Hank and reverting him back, just like it did with Tony in a sense.
Yeah,
and that's
from
debatable.
from the outside looking in, from the reader's perspective, absolutely.
Exactly.
But from their perspective, no.
Oh, no, from their perspective, they went off and veered into the other subject of, hey, all this weird shit's going on. What, the magical bad day? And then all of a sudden, hey, you're a piece of shit. You just screwed over the States, the Avengers. You just screwed all of us over.
Yeah.
You drinker? Because that's what he said.
Captain America says that he believes Tony Stark.
Okay.
Hawkeye and Falcon, especially Hawkeye, not so much. They're saying, no offense, Tony, but you do look a little shaky. And Tony's not having it. He can't believe that his friends don't believe him, and he kind of just flies off on his own. And so now at this point, they're kind of like at an all-time low. So the next thing that happens is that the Avengers, they all meet up back at the blown up, torn down Avengers mansion.
Right.
But when they get there, not only is S.H.I.E.L.D. there doing like an investigation, but like damn near the entire Marvel Universe or the Marvel Universe on Earth is here.
Who sent you guys the invitations? Who made invitations?
Yeah. They're all there just to show support for the Avengers because they know that the Avengers have had a really bad day.
Right.
And it's when they're all there that they look up and they see a weird spacecraft. And Nick Fury, he calls into the S.H.I.E.L.D. helicarrier. He goes, "Hey guys, you want to give me a reading on this ship?" And the S.H.I.E.L.D. helicarrier comes down and goes, "What are you talking about? We don't see anything up here. Nothing on the radar, sir." And Fury goes, "What are you talking about? I'm looking right at a spaceship here. I need you guys to tell me what it is. Give me a read on this." "Sir, we don't see anything." And at this point, a bunch more of the ships show up. And it's an armada of Kree warriors coming down to invade the Earth. And at this point, it's like, whoa, shit.
Wait, Kree?
Yeah.
Oh, crap. I thought they were a Skrull. Never mind.
No.
But yeah, still, either way, what the hell?
Yeah.
Like, my first thought would have been like, wait a minute. We all don't need to be in the same place, guys. We need to spread some of this heroism out. Go away. Oh, shit, too late.
Yeah.
What magical forces put us here?
Right. And so they're all working together to fight to take down these freaking Kree warriors. And I mean, like the Kree have them outnumbered, outgunned. I mean, it's just not looking good.
Yeah.
Hawkeye, who's had so much great dialogue in this story, he's like, "I'm going to need more arrows." And he means that because he disappears for a couple of panels, but when he comes back, he has like a shitload of arrows on him. And he's taking down these Kree warriors left and right. Captain America's trying to get some answers from him, but they're not really wanting to cooperate.
Right.
And Hawkeye, his quiver catches fire when he gets shot in the back by one of the Kree. And of course he has a bunch of explosive arrows in his quiver. Realizing that he doesn't have time to ditch the quiver, he latches on to a Kree warrior. The Kree warrior flies up into one of their main ships and then explodes.
That was some great last minute thinking.
Yeah.
And that was a very honorable last minute.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. All in the same.
All in the same. And just like that, folks, we get Jack Hart back and he dies. We lose Scott Lang. Vision dies. Hawkeye dies.
Yeah.
All in one day. We lose all these people.
And was it even 4 o'clock yet?
Yeah.
Probably not.
Probably not.
Probably not.
Yeah. And so all of this happens now. And then on top of that, what makes it even stranger is that the Kree, they all just suddenly vanish. They all just go back. They leave.
I remember that. Mm-hmm.
And Nick Fury's like, wait a minute, this doesn't make any sense. Why would they leave? They had us outnumbered. They had us dead to rights.
Yeah.
And they just leave. And it's at this point where they hear a voice go, "You should know what's happening," and then Doctor Strange appears in astral form.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yep. And it's at this point now where we get an interesting flashback. So this flashback, it doesn't say when it was; it just says earlier. So
Sure.
we can assume some months earlier. And at this flashback is Hawkeye. He's there. They're all sitting at a pool basically, and it's Hawkeye. He's kind of off to the distance shooting arrows. Poolside, and then on the other side of the pool, on the far end, there was Wasp and Wanda, and so the two are talking and all that, and Wasp, Janet, she's talking to Wanda, and she's like, "I had a scare last week. I missed my appointment, my monthly appointment, and I thought for a second that I was gonna, bring a little wasp into the world." And Wanda goes, "Oh, did you want that?" And of course, Janet goes, "No, I don't want that. Could you imagine, me bringing in a baby and trying to work it out with Clint? There's no way." And because at this point, Wasp and Hawkeye were having a relationship.
Yeah.
It was kind of like I don't know, it was more like a high-end booty call with one another, but it was what it was.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's at this point where Janet, she kind of slips up and she goes, "Could you imagine me having a kid? There's no way I could do it. Being pregnant, as being pregnant and giving birth and trying to fight crime all at the same time. I couldn't do that. And better yet, imagine you having two of them." And then Wanda goes, "What did you say?" And Janet immediately, gets quiet, and she goes, "Oh, I didn't say anything. I gotta go pee. You gotta go pee. I gotta go pee." And so she gets up and then she goes to the bathroom, and Wanda has this perplexed look on her face. Now, what we don't see is that earlier in a really cool X-Men issue, what was it? Not Endangered Species. I forget what it was.
Yeah.
But in the early X-Men issue, that's where Wanda, she has birth, and she gives birth to two boys, twins, that were Vision's children. And then later on in that X-Men series, we find out that those kids were not real. They were creations of Wanda's fractured psyche. And it was Agatha Harkness. She was one of the ones that really helped Wanda with her chaos magic and with her head spokes and all that. Who came along and she goes, "Let me take care of this. I can handle it." And she does some type of magic to handle it.
Right.
Not only did she get rid of the kids, but she made it so that Wanda didn't remember the whole ordeal.
Kind of like layering it, like Charles does in certain universes with Jean Grey. You know, helping her to not be the Phoenix, essentially.
Right.
So
It's not really getting rid of the problems, more like burying it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a thick ass band-aid. In this case, so what you're saying is tonight, in the scope of what we've been talking about so far, we talked about a flashback and a flashback and an even further flashback.
Exactly.
We're in flashback section.
We are.
Exactly. Okay, just wanted to clarify for everybody.
Yep.
So,
But Doctor Strange, she brings us back to current flashback.
Right, the first flashback, people.
Yeah. And Doctor Strange, he's explaining what's happening, and he's telling them, look, whether or not you guys want to believe it, this is all Wanda's doing. This is her doing. She is, her psyche is fractured. She's losing it. And she has some type of grip on reality, or technically she doesn't have a grip on reality, but she does have a grip on reality.
I mean, with the power that large, and this is a reference to a little cell phone game we play, she is one of the very few actual 5-star strength characters. You know, she's one of the few that, if she isn't careful, she's going to rip apart universes.
Oh, yeah.
And I guess, in a scope of things, that's what we're talking about tonight, folks.
Exactly. Yeah.
We're getting into some real multiverse what-if stuff here.
Right. And it ends just as good as the rest of it goes. So as Doctor Strange explains what's happening here, the Avengers and everyone in attendance is like, oh shit, well, we got to do something. Dr. Strange goes, well, I can trace her specific magical trace and find where she's at. And so
Right.
the Avengers and gang, they all go to Wanda's little hideout, and wisely enough, they send in Captain America. Or I imagine Captain America volunteered to send himself in.
Sure.
And he goes in, he's talking with Wanda, and she has her children with her. And the children are like, what is he doing here? He's one of the bad men. Get rid of him. Blah blah blah. And Wanda's like, no, it's okay. He's a good one. He's okay. And Captain America, he's talking to Wanda, trying to talk some sense into her, but he says something that really triggers one of the children. He goes, Wanda, they're not real. You have to set things back. And and it's at that point where, like, as soon as he says that, he looks to his left, and then there's the Red Skull with a bunch of his men, and they shoot him out of a window.
Damn. Hit him where it hurts.
Yeah. And of course, I mean, and this is the weird thing about Wanda's powers, is like, was Red Skull actually there? Technically, yes.
Yeah, no, that's the fascinating thing. All this is, yes, this is actually happening.
Right.
This isn't a hallucination. This
It's not an
isn't
illusion. No.
Hypnotic bullshit. This is like,
This is real.
literally, she has the ability to take the order of cards that our life is laid in. Like, you're doing this, you go to work, you drive there, all this happens, and she can literally pick up a card and put it in front of you and say, no, this is happening next. The hell with what was supposed to happen.
Right.
And really just make fun of the idea of the supposed thick question mark or quotations there to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
in a sense,
yeah,
it's fascinating.
Oh, it is. But even before this encounter, Doctor Strange tells them, because they ask, well, can you just undo this magic, Doctor Strange?
Nope.
And Doctor Strange goes, no, you guys need to understand, your losses today are real.
Yeah, like this
Everything that
isn't magic. This is life.
Right.
As you call life, this is what she does.
Yeah. It's like, it is magic, but it is life.
Yeah.
It's
like, those boys are real in that sense.
Right.
Yeah.
But so Wanda, she goes outside to greet the rest of the Avengers, and they're all pissed. Captain Marvel, Cara Danvers, she's extremely pissed because she's lost two of her teammates today, and she flies up to confront Wanda, and out of nowhere, here comes Rogue, the very same Rogue that took Cara Danvers' powers in the first place, and those two start fighting, and then the Hulk shows up and starts fighting.
So Wanda at this point is just like throwing cards in the air, like, deal with this, deal with that. Yeah.
Doctor Strange goes to confront Wanda, and Dormammu shows up. And like, it's crazy.
That is some bullshit at this point. Like, okay, we don't need no underworld bullshit too. We just dealt with space, okay?
Right.
Yeah.
But at this point, Doctor Strange, he shows that he's still a magical, mystical badass, and he's able to shut down Wanda.
Help me remember. Is he technically the Sorcerer Supreme here? Yeah or nay?
Yeah.
He is? Thank you. Okay. I thought so. Just making sure.
And he's able to shut down Wanda and kind of turn off her brain a little bit. And so she falls unconscious, and as soon as she does, Magneto shows up, and he goes, she was responsible for all this, like in almost an unbelief.
Right.
And then he takes his daughter away. He goes, she's my daughter, I will decide what to do with her. And he takes her away, and that's where this ends.
You're right. That is a great lead in.
Yeah.
I forgot about that. Because I do remember reading that book, bumming it off of you again. Yeah.
Yeah,
Very nice.
It was a really, really great introduction to, like I said, it all just runs together.
It does. It is so well written like that. Yeah. It's literally like watching a well written TV show because the episodes do actually connect like that and not like a daggum sitcom.
Right.
In this case, we just witnessed great writing.
Right.
Yeah.
And it also really helps that we had the same writer that wrote, that run on Avengers also write this book, House of M.
Exactly. Yeah, that's true too. Because you wouldn't want, C.S. Lewis writing the next Lord of the Rings book? That wouldn't make sense.
Right.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah, you have like J.R.R. Tolkien write the first one, C.S. Lewis the second one, and then George Martin writes the third.
Well, if you wanted it to end at that point, get George Martin on it, man. I mean,
well, everyone dies.
Exactly. No one wins. The end. Life is pointless. This story is no longer allegorical or semi-religious. It is just dead.
Just done. Yep. But yeah, so like we said, that leads us right into the House of M.
Yeah, beautifully.
Yeah. And before we begin just continuing the story here, what were your overall thoughts on House of M, Kevin? How'd you like it reading it again?
Again, okay, here's the thing. When I first read it, it was some years ago, okay? And reading it then, it quickly became one of my favorites. I mean, after all the ones we've spoken about and all the fun things that we get to talk about here on this podcast, this still reigns up there for me as one of my favorite experiences to keep going back to. And this time, it was equally fruitful and then some. So debatably even better of a read this time. Just because I was more aware, I was able to more keenly pay attention to just the nuances, the little things that they give us. Like every page, literally every damn page of this alternate reality of Wanda and whatnot. If you have read the book, you know what I'm talking about. But every single panel had some type of Easter egg call out, some fascinating detail where literally you see the creativity needed to make this story. They made an entire universe of comic knowledge composed into one book, essentially. Right. That's what they had to do to make this story. And they didn't have to give us as many details as they did. You know, they didn't have to involve as many characters or whatnot that were involved in this story, but they did. And that is the talented, well-written, well-composed part of this book, you know. It's an awesome read. It's definitely a huge, like we talked about earlier, a huge, whoa, what the hell would be the correct thing to do in this situation? Or, whoa, what would I do in this huge what-if scenario? Like, whoa, what if I was confronted by my friends and family and said, look, none of this is real, man. This is all just a weird situation right now. Let me explain it to you. And they had to get some little girl to, you know, F my mind over or something, yeah.
But that's the thing. You can't say that none of it's real because it is.
Oh, that's true. Thank you for correcting my wordplay there. And that's the tricky mental thing here. And guys, brace yourselves for the rest of the night being like that.
Well, you know what? It reminds me of another one of my favorite reads.
Which one?
Flashpoint.
Also, yes.
Because in Flashpoint, Flash at first thought, this is an alternate dimension that I'm in. And then he realized quickly, no, this is my dimension. This is my world. All of this is real.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of the same thing here.
It's not alternate dimension as it is an alternate reality because it is still a real thing. You know, this isn't, again, some hypnotic or dream type BS.
Yeah, it's no illusions, nothing like that.
And as we'll talk about, they have as much of a right to their reality as we do to ours. And that's the scary, whoa. But we'll get into that later.
Right.
Yeah.
So it picks up with Wanda. She's in her bedchambers and she's giving birth to twins, and she has Doctor Strange as the doctor, helping birth the children. And
what kind of doctor is Doctor Strange not of? Does that question make sense? Because what can't this man doctor?
He can doctor everything.
He can doctor birthing, psychology. He can doctor magic. Because that's something that needs doctoring, you know.
And of course, neurosurgery.
Oh, brain surgery, as we've both read and seen. So, damn.
Yeah. And also, Vision is there as well. And she's just surrounded by friends, and everybody looks happy. And Doctor Strange says that the twins are perfectly fine and healthy and happy. And then it's at that point where Professor X, he's sitting across the room, and he goes,
like a badass,
put it back. Like, that's what...
I just imagine that out of context, like, put everything back where it came from.
Now, if we was talking to Doctor Strange, that would be really...
I know, right? Because then Doctor Strange would be like, oh, I'm sorry, what? That's not how this works.
Put it back, Doctor Strange.
Yeah, no, that would be like, Xavier, we have to have a really serious talk real quick, okay, buddy?
But no, he's talking to Wanda. He's telling Wanda basically to put reality back.
Yeah.
Like, none of this shit. Like, here's the thing. Professor X, like, he's always such a sweet and caring individual. But here, he's just being, like, straight to the point here.
Yeah.
Wanda, put it back.
Yeah.
Like, none of this is real. You don't have any children.
Yep.
Put it back.
They never existed. You stop this shit right now.
Yeah. Like, he's definitely playing, like, the tough dad role here.
Almost tough grandpa at this point, but yeah.
And at this point, Wanda, she kind of freaks out, and then she does reset everything back to normal. And then Professor X, he suggests to her that she sleeps, aka he induces her into sleep. And so at this point, we realize that Wanda, she's in Genosha as Professor X wheels himself outside. Then he's greeted by Eric, by Magneto. And these two, it's always nice seeing these two chat.
I love it.
Yeah.
There's very few duos that I appreciate the conversations of as much as these two. You know, they're always this wise, in-depth, opposing worlds, just best friends.
Yeah.
You know, it's awesome.
It was just an awesome encountering between these two.
Yeah. What I'm saying is it normally is.
Oh,
and,
yeah,
and this one, too, is very short, but still it fits the bill, you know?
Because it's like, despite all their differences and everything that they've gone through, there'll always be that mutual respect. And like here in Wanda's darkest hours, Magneto knew that he could depend on Charles to do whatever he could to help her.
Oh, yeah.
And that's exactly what's happening here. But now Charles is telling Eric, look, there's not a whole lot I can do here. I don't know what to do.
Right.
And
like, you can only hold the door for so long.
Right.
I made myself sad.
Oh, hold the door. Okay. Yeah. Another Game of Thrones reference, people.
It is.
But at this point, Charles, he tells Eric, don't blame yourself for this. And then Eric goes, well, quit reading my mind. Charles goes, I wasn't.
I know, right?
Yeah.
It's awesome reading into the depth of their friendship, you know? Like
their quote-unquote friendship.
Yeah.
Whatever their relationship, whatever the hell it is. Like,
whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Their camaraderie, their understanding of each other.
Their history.
Yeah. But even then, because of that, they can rely on each other when shit gets really real, you know? Bigger than them, essentially. Like right now, this Wanda situation became huge. Yo, Charles, bestie, buddy, whatever you want to call it, I need your help. And of course he came. You know,
good point. Yeah.
He came willing.
And at this point, Magneto, he feels like he's failed his children. He feels like he's especially failed Wanda, and that it's all his fault. A little bit.
Yeah,
you know.
I mean, Q saw what I was doing, which is kind of like the tossing the hands back and forth, like, well, you know, you're not wrong, buddy. You could have been a better padre.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Magneto really blames himself. He kind of floats off in a way. Professor X, he arranges a meeting at the Avengers Tower, you know, because the Avengers Mansion is no more. And so they're at the Avengers Tower, and Charles, he calls in like all the Avengers, all the former Avengers, and all the X-Men and Fantastic Four. He calls in everybody, and they all meet up at the tower, and they discuss the fate of Wanda. Basically, they talk about what's the best approach here. And this is really where like the first moral dilemma of the comic comes into play.
Yeah.
You know, because it's like, what do you do? Like,
yeah, I mean, the things they're talking about aren't, you know, cartoon TV show solutions. You know, they're talking literally about, okay, do we put her down to end this whole thing, yay or nay? And that's what's being debated here. And there's heroes saying, well, duh, I mean, we kind of have to, guys. Look at what she's capable of. And there's other heroes saying, but no, wait, we can find a solution around that. We don't have to kill her. And of course, you know, certain key characters are like, nope.
Yeah. I think it's interesting that for the most part, the mutants were like, we need to kill her. And the Avengers was like, no, she's our teammate. We can find a way. I think that there's a lot to that. I think that the X-Men, more so than the Avengers, know what mutants are capable of. And they know that if they don't get a hold on this thing, then it can really spiral out of control.
Right.
And I think that maybe in this specific area, the X-Men have more expertise on the matter.
You know what? That's an interesting point of view. I haven't thought about it so deeply, where the X-Men were the ones saying, hell nah, man, we need to clock that out right now. There's a depth to that, because all the X-Men, all the mutants, even to this point in their individual stories, have gone through their own versions of similar moments, you know.
Jean Grey's the first that comes to mind, the
For
most
real.
major one.
Yes.
Like, they had to basically have the same discussion about Jean Grey.
Yeah, like how do we put her down?
Right.
You
like,
know?
when we encounter the Phoenix again, we need to know what we're going to do.
Exactly, you know. I mean, Rogue had flip out points, you know,
Yeah.
freaking Charles Xavier's had flip out points. Like, mutant powers go unbridled sometimes, you know.
But you know, I really love like the little talk that Spider-Man and Wolverine have on the side, where Spider-Man's like, "So what? If I flip out and lose my powers, you're gonna put me down too?" And Wolverine goes, "Yep." And I hope that you do the same to me.
Exactly. Like, dude, I love Wolverine in the story.
Yeah.
Because he's so insightful. And it's awesome. We don't really get to see insightful Logan very often. So I love that the writer was able to see that side of this character and give it some attention, you know? Because you're right. Whenever he says that, that's respectable. Like, it's like when Batman did the same thing with Superman. Do you have a backup plan for yourself? Yes. You.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, enough said, same thing.
Right.
Done.
Yeah. And that's true, because Batman is like, "I'm going to count on you to do the right thing, Clark, and put me down," you know?
Right. Yeah. Jumping universes again.
Right.
But, you know, that's the theme of tonight.
It is.
Yeah.
But no, I thought it was really insightful, because it's like, what is the right decision? And I think the answer is there is no right decision.
No.
There's just a decision.
Yeah,
You know?
and the thing is that the real question here, once you realize that, is what consequences can you live with?
Right.
You know, keep her alive. Can you deal with what she's going to do and what she's not going to control? You know, kill her off. Can you deal with those consequences?
Right.
So that's the question in depth here, you know. But of course, you can't dive right into that. You have to, you know, tell the story to really get it well done, you know? Yeah.
Yeah. So the X-Men and the Avengers, they really can't come to a mutual decision, and so they decided the best thing to do is to go to Genosha and talk with Wanda and see where she's at, and decide from there what they should do.
Which, that's fair. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
I would like to think that if I, for some reason, was a superhero on par with these amazing superheroes, and they invited me to the meeting, and I, you know, privately gushed and said, "Oh shit, man, I'm an Avenger. I'm going to the Avenger meeting. Hells yeah. I'm eating pizza with the Avengers." And then afterwards, after I matured back up and put on my mask and said, "Yeah, let's go talk to Wanda. That's a good idea. We need her opinion if she's not, you know, too crazy to not have an opinion yet."
Right.
Yeah, if she's actually still capable of such.
Yeah, and but you know, I guess just playing devil's advocate here, not saying that I feel
please.
one way or another.
Yeah.
But I feel that also going to see her could also change a lot of their minds without the rational approach. I feel like they'd be acting more off of emotion also at that point.
That's true, and you do open yourself to that vulnerability, you know, and at that point, it's really on your shoulders to be logical, not just emotional. If that makes sense, you know, because I don't want to tick off nobody, but really there has to be certain mature, well thought out decisions if you do something like that. You know, if you put the dog down and you can ask the dog, "Hey, you're really sick, there's no cure, you're in pain, do you want to live in pain?" You have to actually be able to, you know, deal with looking at a sick dog.
Yeah, but the problem here is that, like, if that sick dog could potentially bite and kill the entire world.
Yeah, and that's what happens here. The dog got really sick and said, "Oh no, F this," click, everything's gone. Without snapping like Thanos.
But you know, before we get there though, what's also interesting is that both the X-Men and the Avengers have a lot on the line here. There's a lot that each side could lose. For example, if the media finds out, if the world finds out that it was Wanda, a mutant and an Avenger, that caused all that death and destruction at the Avengers mansion, then they're going to lose their shit. They're going to look at the Avengers and say, "One of your own did this? If we can't trust you guys, then who can we trust?" And now the Avengers will lose the trust of the people. And of course, if they look at that from the mutant perspective, Oh, another mutant killed a bunch of people. Imagine that. Maybe
right?
William Stryker's right, and we should really do something about these mutants for once and for all.
William Stryker. It's super clever how they put him in the story still, but it's like, damn it. Don't give him no more fuel, you know?
Yeah.
We just finished dealing with him in freaking
Right.
the past couple weeks ago.
Yeah, but not to make this a political, statement at all, but look
please
at
do.
the world that we live in and how certain things are like on the teeter-totter of balance right now, where if something happens, then they'll blame an entire group, for the actions of one.
Yeah.
And it's kind of the same thing here. Like, even though it's just one isolated event with Wanda, you can imagine the media, the press, and the people as a whole just ostracizing the Avengers and the
no,
X-Men.
the media doesn't help to clarify anything. The media just helps to exploit that and then makes it worse and just puts gas on fire.
Right. I mean, like, for example, once again, like, I really don't want to make this anything super political, but like, if you look
kinda
at
are.
but that's kind of what the message of this book
That's
is beckoning.
beautiful. Yeah, no, please. I have no problem with it. Yeah.
But like, like you look at like any type of quote unquote terrorist attack that happens in this country here, if it happens by a person that is brown and that is not native of this country, all of a sudden now the media almost creates a sort of xenophobia in the people that watch the news, and now what the people that watch the news perceive is that everybody that looks like that is a threat.
Exactly. Like now, all of a sudden, the whole group is to blame rather than that one individual.
Exactly.
But
when it happens to someone that looks like you does it, then it's different. Then it's an isolated event, and it's not that. I don't want to say it's not that bad, but the way it's perceived is that this was a lone wolf. This was someone acting alone.
He wasn't right in the head.
Right, yeah. But when it's someone that you can't as easily relate to, then they're all bad as a whole. It's the way that xenophobia sets in.
And there's way too many examples of that in our present day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so in that case, the book becomes all too real. House of M becomes way too relatable because the X-Men and the Avengers have that problem.
It's like we had this same discussion with God Loves, Man Kills.
Yeah.
I mean, damn, these comics, they're text, man.
Yeah.
What's the old phrase? History repeats itself. Comics repeats itself. Yeah,
that is all very true.
That's the new T-shirt. Comics repeats itself.
That's gonna be our second T-shirt.
What was the first one? Help me remember.
The first one was a really silly one. It
Yeah.
was Batman versus Superman is not baby food.
That's right. We need a marker board to write that shit down on, man. I'm gonna write those down. We're gonna start selling this shit.
Oh man. But moving on here with the story.
Oh man.
So Charles, he leads them all to Genosha, to where Scarlet Witch is at, and they go to the exact location as to where Wanda is, and they realize she's not there. What the hell? Where is she? And so they begin to look for her, and then Professor X disappears, and then they realize, holy shit, something's not right here.
Yep.
Okay, all right, guys, let's find Professor X. And then get the hell out of here or find Wanda. We gotta do something. But we have to find Professor X.
Yeah.
And so as they're looking for Professor X, one by one, they all start disappearing.
Yeah.
And then Spider-Man, he's almost just talking to himself when he realizes that he's by himself. And he turns around and he sees this bright, blinding white light. And it engulfs him.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where one of the chapters ends. I actually skipped over something that I want to go back to really quick here.
Yeah, please do.
Before the Avengers even make it to Genosha, there's a talk that Pietro Quicksilver has with Magneto. He goes to his father, and Pietro's all beside himself. He's in shambles. He's in tears because he knows that the Avengers are coming to kill his sister. And he goes, "Father, what are we going to do? They are going to come here and kill Wanda." And Magneto helplessly replies, "Well, what you have me do?"
Yeah. I love a lot of Magneto's dialogue in this whole
Yeah.
story. And I want to get into it way more, obviously, at the end, where it really shines through the most, in my opinion. But here, I mean, Magneto understands. Magneto's always been written from a perspective of an insightful person, be his decisions wise or not at certain times, And in this case, he knows that there's no real correct answer, defending her, letting them take her.
Right.
Neither one's right or wrong, and he knows that. And that's the fascinating thing here. Like, well, Pietro, do you have a better idea?
Yeah.
You know, what's the right call here, buddy? You know, but instead he does Magneto dad style, which is like classic. What would you have me do? Might as well have said boy at the end of it.
Yeah. But then I do love, though, how Pietro, he just keeps going off and goes, Dad, they are going to kill her. And then Magneto does it again. What would you have me do? And like the way that it's drawn and written, you can really tell that Magneto is beside himself because he doesn't know what to do.
Yeah.
Like you said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's as much anger as it is a furious, no, really,
frustration
do you have
and
anything. Yeah.
Right. Like, yeah, you know that Magneto's thinking, if you have an idea, a better idea, I will gladly oblige.
Right.
But if you don't, then what's the point of you telling me all this?
Dad, hear me out, Pa. Hear me out, Pa, okay? We'll build a reality-proof box. Like the plastic prisons you were in, we're gonna build one that's immune to reality shit. Alright? What you think of that? We can build that. You're Magneto.
I think that doesn't make any sense, son. But no, moving on. So once Spider-Man is engulfed by that blinding light, he wakes up. He wakes up as Peter Parker in bed, and he rolls over, and we realize that something's changed.
Yeah.
Peter Parker is now married to Gwen Stacy.
Dun, dun, dun.
But just to go through really quick, some of these major changes that have happened. So Peter and Gwen Stacy are married. So Gwen Stacy's alive for one thing, and she's married, and they have a son.
Which,
Yeah. Scott and Emma, Cyclops and Emma Frost, they're married. Doctor Strange is a psychologist, and poor Ryan, Bob Reynolds, he's still crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love how they did that there.
Yeah.
How they, again, all the small details, and they did such a good job of weaving them together. That's one of my favorite examples. Like, oh, we still have Doctor Strange, but he's a psychologist here.
Right.
Working with his star patient, who is still Bob Reynolds.
Yeah, who's
and
still
that's
Bob
great. Who
Reynolds,
still
yeah.
is dealing with the void. Even,
Right.
They couldn't take the void away.
I think that they really should have maybe awakened the Sentry, because I don't think they did.
Exactly.
Not to go too far ahead here, but
Well, at the same time, and again, not to go too far ahead, but the Sentry's getting help, you know?
Yeah.
And as far as his psyche, that's something that he's wanted.
that's true, and that'll probably just fracture his psyche even more.
Poor bastard.
Yeah.
Overpowered bastard.
Yeah, and so Bob Reynolds, he's the Sentry, by the way. Like, I guess for Marvel, he's like the power equivalent of Superman, like literally. But he is quite mentally unstable. But anyways, so what else has changed here? Oh yeah, Captain America, he's an old vet. His is kind of one of the more sad stories.
Yeah.
But at the same time, though, this is a reality where Cap was not frozen in the block of ice. You can imagine that this is probably what he wanted. He never wanted to be frozen for all those years.
So here's the question then. Do you think he was still the super soldier? He just aged appropriately?
I think he was still a super soldier.
Same here.
For sure. But he just aged appropriately.
First time I read this years ago, I didn't think about that. I did not have the depth to really dive in that much. I just saw and interpreted what I saw. And reading into it now, it's like, yeah, shit, dude. He was still super soldier, and just he actually lived the life he wanted, you know?
Yeah.
And one more big change I want to say, I'm not sure if it's on your list or not, let me know if it is. But one thing I found fascinating, these characters all are intertwined and interwoven into alternate realities, again, making a huge concept of a whole nother universe. But at the same time, one huge difference, all these mutants are walking around.
Yeah.
Like, you got a man in a suit and another man in a suit, but the second one's on fire and everyone's happy and cool. And they're just walking to work like, hey, Bill, you ready for that PowerPoint presentation?
Right.
Like, whatever the shit, Bill. But and then kids are flying and shit, and it's fascinating.
It is. It's a world where the mutants are the majority and the humans are now the minority.
Yeah.
And we're definitely going to dig into that here in just a second.
Oh, yeah.
But that is for sure a really integral point of the story.
And of course, with Bendis' classic storytelling here, a lot of those mutants also are, not human looking, with like a third eye or wings or, purple, green, reptilian skin or whatever. Yeah, it's really well drawn.
It is, yeah. It's really well done here. But yeah, I really love all this here. Another really interesting change is that Beast and Hank Pym, Hank and McCoy and Hank Pym, they're working together. They're working for Stark Industries. We're not quite sure as to what these two brilliant minds are doing, but they're both still brilliant here.
Yep.
But it's interesting their conversation as well, because there's a lot of meat in what they discuss also.
Yeah.
It really doesn't have a lot to pertain to the main story, but at the same time it does. You see, what's happening here is that Hank Pym, I'm just going to call him by the last names, Pym and McCoy, okay?
Thank you. Yes.
So Pym is talking to McCoy, and he's like, look, I've been working on this project here, and I think that it can be really good. And McCoy is immediately cutting him off, like, you know that Mr. Stark said to not work on this. You know the way that this is going to be perceived. Essentially, what Pym is working on here is something to isolate the human gene from the mutant DNA. And what Beast is saying in response to that is, it doesn't matter what your intentions are of doing this. It's going to be perceived as a form of xenophobia if you do this.
Reverse racism, he calls it.
Exactly, yeah. It's going to be perceived as reverse racism.
Which that itself is a very interesting concept that I'm sure a lot of people don't think about.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, you know, it's true because, like, you got to think about it like this, just to, I guess, make it feel more at home. Like, if you found out that, you know, 3 generations down the line, your race would no longer exist, like, and it was just going to naturally evolve. Not that you were going to be killed off or slaughtered, but it was just going to naturally evolve into something else.
Right. In other words, the eradication of your own kind if you wore this other race.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's what's happening to humans here. The humans are dying out, and the mutants are the vast majority. The Homo superior is the next genetic step for mankind, and Hank is trying to find a way, essentially, to isolate that and to keep the human race going alongside the mutant race. But the way that it would be perceived by, of course, the majority of the people is you're trying to stop the mutant race from proceeding. You're trying to stop evolution.
And, you know, it's almost a whole story within itself that would be fascinating to dig into here, because Tony Stark himself is still human in this universe. So it's like, hey, don't support that, okay? I know I'm human and you're human and we're both happy, blah, 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 bullshit. Don't do it.
Yeah.
So he also has a deeper understanding of this concept, of the idea of that's going to scare too many people, and that fear itself will instigate enough power to bring us down. Don't do it.
Right.
It's fascinating.
It is.
Yeah. And again, it's the stories within the stories, the detail interwoven here. A whole universe created in this short-ass graphic novel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's so great. There's so much meat to the story.
There really is.
Yeah.
And every time you read it, you're going to learn something new.
Every time, yeah. But then, of course, we get like the next really big plot point here in the story, which is Wolverine. He has a weird-ass dream, wakes up, and he is next to a redhead that immediately transforms back to Mystique.
Who's also still redhead, but blue-skinned.
Yep. And Wolverine loses his shit because he doesn't know what's going on. And the reason why Wolverine is flipping out and everyone else wasn't is because Wolverine remembers everything.
Yeah, he's aware.
Wolverine is woke as fuck.
Exactly, yeah. He wakes up from another Weapon X dream where he's more animalistic and being experimented on. Oh gosh, there's a hot redhead on top of me. Who are you? You know? Damn.
Yeah, and it's funny how even in this alternate universe, now he still has a thing for redheads.
I'm pretty sure if I was in his shoes, I'm not gonna lie, I know who the hell I am. I would have woken up, been aware of like, whoa, what the shit? This isn't right. Hello.
Hey, I can figure this out in about 10
figure this out later.
Yeah.
It's like, I got time. I got time. I don't know what's going on. I'm cool.
Right.
Fires all around me. I can deal with this.
Yeah. I'm still strangely aroused. Yeah.
All right, let's do this. I'll worry about it later.
Man. But yeah, Wolverine, he remembers everything. And And so he kind of freaks out. He runs outside and he realizes that he's on a shield helicarrier. He's in charge of a shield group known as the Red Guard. And the Red Guard, they're pretty much like the personal, not assistants, but like the personal mercenary group for the House of Magnus. They're like the elite group that do whatever needs to be done to protect, of course, not just mutant kind, but specifically the House of Magnus themselves.
Right. Now, here's a big question. Who was on that team? Let's dive into that.
Yeah, so on the team was Wolverine, Mystique, Rogue, Toad, and Nightcrawler.
Yep. It's interesting who all was put on this team, and I want to talk about that later on after certain things are revealed.
Yeah, okay. Wolverine, he literally jumped ship, and he just to get away from the shield helicarrier and from this team of Red Guard, who Wolverine is technically the leader of.
I know, right?
Yeah. He's not having any of it. He doesn't want to be a part of whatever this is.
He skydives.
Yeah, he does. Mostly just dives. He just cuts right through the sky.
He is a master of cutting.
Yeah. It's at this point where Logan, he discovers that the road is majority mutants. And he realizes that something's not right, and he begins to piece things together. He realizes that Scarlet Witch must have done this, but why would she do this? And then he looks out at all the billboards and all the ads, and he sees that this is a road that's essentially run by Magneto. And he's like, son of a bitch. And so Wolverine's theory here is that Magneto, he used Scarlet Witch to change reality into the form that he wanted it to be. And now this theory is going to be furthered later on with another character and plot piece really soon here. But right now, at this current point, that's Wolverine's running theory, is that Magneto convinced his daughter to shape reality into the world that Magneto wanted it in.
Right. That's what everyone's running with. Because, I mean, come on. Who looks like they ended up on top here?
Exactly.
Oh, Lord Magnus? Okay, we need a conversation with this mofo.
Yeah. Basically like the leader of the free world. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Sentinels even look like him? Come on, man.
And so what happened is that Wolverine, he realized that I need to find Charles Xavier right now.
You know what I just imagined? Just a quick sidebar. I just imagined if we were big enough that Sentinels were built to look like us. Mine, okay. Okay, whatever. No big deal. Yours would just be huge. Even for a Sentinel, like a big-ass robot. That's awesome. That's great. But they'd still be short compared to other robots.
Shit. Damn it, that's the point of being the Sentinel. You're supposed to be tall.
Right? Well, you're going to be tall as hell. You're just, if other tall robots were around, ours would be the same height, and theirs would have like an inch or two on us.
Screw those other robots.
Or the equivalent of an inch or two on those giant scales.
Like 10 feet.
Exactly.
But no, so Wolverine, he realizes that he needs to find Charles Xavier ASAP. And so he goes to the X-Mansion and he breaks in and he sees some random guy sleeping in like the head bed chamber. And he stealthily wakes the guy up and threatens to kill him all at the same time. Typical Wolverine fashion. And he goes, "Where's Charles Xavier?" And this poor guy sleeping in the bed goes, "I have no idea who that is." And Wolverine goes, "How long have you lived here?" And the guy goes, "I've been here for 15 years, never heard of a Charles Xavier." And Wolverine gets out and he leaves. He can't get a hold of Spider-Man because in this world, Peter Parker is Spider-Man and he's married to Gwen Stacy with his son, but he's also a public figure. Like, everybody knows that Spider-Man is Peter Parker, but they're not trying to, there's no threat there.
Right. Yeah.
He can't get a hold of Peter Parker. They try to give him the fan club.
I know,
he can't find Professor X anywhere. So his next step is, okay, maybe I should try Tony Stark.
Yep.
I'm gonna go to Stark Tower. And so that's what he does. He goes to the Stark Tower trying to contact Tony Stark, and the mutant behind the counter, like the secretary or whatever, she's like, you do know that he isn't actually here, right? Like, this is just one of his buildings. Yeah.
Like, oh, shit.
Yeah. And before he can even finish the word shit, he's ambushed by the rest of the Red Guards. So, yeah, like we said earlier, it's Nightcrawler, is Rogue, Mystique, and Toad.
And also Jessica Drew.
Oh yeah, also Jessica Drew, Spider-Woman. Yeah, I forgot about her. She's there too.
Which that's a bomb team already.
It is.
Yeah.
It really is.
I mean, damn. But yeah, I'll talk about that later. No need to go into it now. Yeah.
Yeah, but with that kind of team, you got all bases covered.
Yeah.
You know.
That's exactly what I was thinking. You have full frontal assault. I mean, already with like Wolverine and Nightcrawler doing some fun fighting shit there.
Oh, I can't forget about Rogue.
Oh, hell no. Yeah. Rogue, freaking bulletproof too? The hell with that? You're done. And then Infiltration, you got Mystique, Nightcrawler, Toad for some reason.
Well, you got Toad for like agility, I guess the factor of surprise for sure.
There you go. That's true too. You know, staking out, because I'm sure if there's anyone who can sit in a position on a building corner, you know, getting intel, it's definitely him. Your team is great. And then Jessica for freaking negotiations, like controlling people's emotion with that shit.
Yeah.
Like, hey, calm down. Be attracted to me. What's going on?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, damn.
Yeah, so that's a pretty powerful team. So Logan, he's trying to make his escape. He's doing pretty well, but it becomes apparent that he's going to get captured here. And as soon as he's about to get captured by Nightcrawler specifically, Nightcrawler is struck in the back by an arrow, and then Wolverine is swallowed up in like a portal. So come to find out, it was Hawkeye and Cloak that saved him.
Yep.
One thing we didn't talk about earlier is that in this new reality, Luke Cage is like a resistance kind of gangster type figure.
Basically, he looks like a resistance leader of sorts.
Yeah.
So, like, he's the renegade owner here, and it's kind of cool because they're still based out of Hell's Kitchen, right? Yeah. And you know, he's got his team going on,
right? His underground team of humans.
Yes, which makes sense in this reality. You know, Hawkeye's on as we can tell because of pew, pew, arrows, because you know they make pew pew sounds, and it goes on from there. You want to keep leading us, my friend?
Yeah. So Logan, he's taken to like this underground base where he encounters Luke Cage, like the leader of this resistance group, and it's at this point where he's trying to convince them that, or he's trying to tell them like what he thinks going on, but first they keep telling him to ditch the tracking chip. They do, but it's too late. The Red Guards attack the base, and it's at this point where Cloak he teleports most of them out of there and into the Kingpin's office. The Kingpin's is not there. They say earlier in the graphic novel that he's been beaten to a pulp. So they know that the Kingpin's office is empty.
Yep.
So
good old Wilson Fisk is no mas.
Nope. Yep. Then it's at this point where Logan he explains the crazy story of what's happening. And it's at this point where he realizes that Professor X is missing, and so this is where his theory is even furthered. He goes, I think that Magneto is using Scarlet Witch to change reality to his liking, and I think that he's used Charles Xavier to do it also, to get inside of our minds and to wipe us. So I mean, it's a really good theory.
Yeah,
I mean,
it really is.
And like the thing about this theory is that, like, especially your first time reading it, you can kind of believe it, you know, because it makes sense.
Yeah,
you know, because it is entirely within Magneto's nature to do something like this. But the only thing that gives pause about that theory is the state of Magneto at the beginning of this book. He doesn't seem like the type of man at the beginning of this book that would do something like this, even though prior events that Magneto has done states otherwise.
Exactly.
But so the biggest plot twist that happens here is that as he explains the story, Luke Cage and the gang, most of them kind of believe him, and Wolverine's like, why do you believe me?
Exactly. It shouldn't be this easy, you know? I mean, he's telling the truth, but he's like, wait, what? You just gonna flop like that? Okay, whatever.
And then this is where we're introduced to a little girl named Layla Miller. And
she is the fascinating centerpiece of all this.
She is.
Sure, Wolverine was the first woke, but this girl is the one who made it happen.
Exactly. Now, first of all, I just love the way that she's drawn here. Like, her facial expressions all throughout the book are great because she's like, I don't know what the hell is going on. I don't want to be here.
She's the reluctant guest star.
Yeah.
Oh, no. She's the little boy who was called up in WrestleMania, okay? who was wrestling with...
Braun Strowman.
Exactly. Yeah. I still wish that kid slapped someone. Come on, man.
Oh, man. But, yeah, so... Layla, she explains that that she woke up and she realized that everything was different. This isn't the role that she knows. It's kind of funny. She went to go find Daredevil, but she ran into Luke Cage, and she was like, "Okay, I'll go with this guy." And I'm like, man. So even here in this alternate reality, she's less afraid of a man dressed up as the devil than she is a black man.
That is really clever, and there's something to be said to that. Yeah.
Yeah. But no, anyways. And so that's, she kind of used her powers a little bit on Luke Cage, but she has a hard time controlling it. She doesn't really know how to make people woke. And so it's at this point now where Luke Cage is talking with Wolverine, and he's like, well, what should we do now? If everything you're saying is true, what's our next plan of attack? And Wolverine goes, well, we can't get Charles Xavier, but I know someone else who we can get.
But before they do that, there's one more really crucial point I wanted to bring up here. Something that really helps us to understand not just the great storytelling of this graphic novel, but also the great understanding and depth of character we get. He also discovers, talking about with Luke Cage, like, I don't know why the hell all this is the way it is, like why I'm the leader of a Red Guard and doing all this crazy shit I've always wanted to do. Oh, wait, all of us have been giving everything we've ever wanted.
Yeah.
Well... What do you? Oh dear! There's a thought. It's brewing.
Yeah. So
what's coming out?
I mean, I've thought about that a lot.
Really? Okay.
And it does ring true, but there's some things that also don't quite add up.
Okay.
It's like,
you mean like for certain characters and what they were dished out rather than?
Yeah. Like for example, I guess this is just a plot hole in Wolverine's theory.
What's that?
If this really is Magneto's doing, then sure, I believe that all the mutants would get what they truly desire.
Okay.
But not Spider-Man, not Miss Marvel, not Doctor Strange.
Well, what about all heroes in general, though? I mean...
Why? Okay, Luke Cage didn't. Daredevil didn't.
Well, who says that Luke Cage is unhappy? He's still helping people, to an extent. He's helping people in this big-ass scenario.
Okay, Hank Pym. I mean, like, first of all, I don't buy that Luke Cage is
Hank
happy.
Pym.
Yeah, I don't think that Luke Cage is happy. We know that Hank Pym isn't happy.
Yeah, we know Hank Pym is unhappy. That's true.
Yeah. So to me, I think that that's kind of a flaw. I don't think
so
that
in other words, she had some prejudice. She had some prejudice in all this.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah, because you're right. Not everybody got everything they ever wanted. Sure, Hank Pym is working in one of the best labs with the best equipment and the best funding, and sure, that's every researcher's damn dream, I'm sure.
Right.
Not that I'm a researcher.
Yeah.
By far, but there are certain things where it's like, there's little nuances that they were given that they're happy with. Like Luke Cage is still working with people and he's still helping, and that's cool, but he's also fighting a rebellion.
Yeah, he's fighting a losing battle.
Yeah. And that's,
right.
dare I say, that's not his preference, So there's that.
And let's not forget about Hawkeye.
Well, he gets to live. That's something. I mean, that's poor Hawkeye got the short end of the arrow, man. He really did. Yeah. But a few of the characters were given things that they were comfortable with,
Yeah, like most of the characters were given things that they were comfortable with.
Yeah.
And honestly, like, I say that it's a plot hole in Wolverine's theory, but I think that it shows another layer of depth to the overall story. Because me personally, like I said, I think that Magneto, if it was him that did it, he wouldn't have like any of the humans or metahumans, instead of happiness. All the mutants, sure, that's Magneto's dream, is for mutant kind to thrive. The humans be damned. But the fact that there are other super people here that have happiness, super people that Wanda and Pietro know, that leads credence to the overall plot of the story.
I'm trying to think deeper into it, actually. What if, to an extent, all the factors that matter, it was only Magneto who was given everything he ever wanted, and he's the one in this reality, in the predecessing time to this story, to Wolverine being woken, whenever this reality was still happening, when Wolverine was being elected for the Red Guard, and all, you get what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. That was Magneto setting in the further pieces of the things that he's wanted. Like, okay, I want a kick-ass, mercenary bodyguard type escort here. Okay, Wolverine, you're my team leader. I know you're a badass, and I know I can control you. So get a team together, people you can work with, get it done, Because most of the team is also Brotherhood members, you notice.
Yeah, Well, 2 other members are Brotherhood members, then 2 other members are X-Men.
True. Well, I mean, wasn't Rogue Brotherhood for a time as well?
Yeah, she's like the wild card. That
exactly.
Kinda,
and Jessica.
At this point, honestly, we really don't know.
No, that's true. It's speculation. That's all this is.
Because what we do know is that Scarlet Witch is the one that changed the reality,
right?
And Professor X is the one that discovered what their deepest desires were,
right? And maybe that's another aspect of it. Maybe there's deeper desires here that aren't on enough of a surface level for us to fully interpret. Maybe there's, a deeper side to each of these characters that shows not happiness maybe, but a level of content. A level of, this is what I'm doing, I'm okay with doing this. Right. Oh, I'm fighting this huge thing and I'm part of a rebellion, I'm okay with this. Better than rolling over or something. Whatever have you.
Right.
And that's another card.
Yeah,
sure.
I still don't think that any of the humans are particularly happy.
No, I won't say happy.
Right.
And even content is a careful word. I'm choosing that with a lot of explanation again. So please don't hear content and think, listeners, please don't hear that and think, yeah, I'm happy being, a whole new different style of minority in a world where mutants are looking down on us and now we can't, use Hank Pym's research we're not even aware of to help isolate and keep the humans going.
Yeah.
But, and that's a whole nother awesome what if side to this great damn story.
Yeah. Yeah. It is.
Man.
Oh, man.
All these details are easy to get caught up on.
They are.
Damn.
So moving on, the next thing we get here is Logan takes the team right into Emma and Scott Summers' home. And so they go all up in their crib and they wait for Emma Frost to get home. And as soon as she does, Emma, being the badass that she is, she immobilizes everybody so no one can move. And then Logan makes his thoughts loud enough for her to hear. And then she realizes that, wait a minute, what did you say? What is this?
Yeah.
And then that's when she has an encounter with Layla. And long story short, Emma becomes woke.
Yep.
And Emma freaks out.
Yeah.
She freaks out hard, and she's like, I'm going to kill him. I am going to kill Magneto. I am going to freaking kill him.
Yep.
It's funny because after her encounter with Layla, they have like a in-depth conversation about Layla's powers. And Emma basically discovers that Layla has the power to reveal reality as it is. That's her mutant power, essentially.
Yeah. I love while all this is going on, by the way.
Yeah.
Logan's like opening the fridge and, yep, we're going to go kill him, drinking a beer.
Yeah. Wolverine, yeah. But it's funny because after all this, Scott comes walking through the door.
Yeah.
And Cyclops is like, Emma, what the hell is this?
There's another hole in the theory we were just talking about, actually. Even in Scott's reality, he's still trapped wearing those damn glasses.
That's true.
He still has his handicap,
Or is he? Maybe.
You think he's just luxuriously wearing them?
Maybe. We don't know. We don't know.
Okay, I'll throw my arms up at that. All right, it's a shot. It's a weird ass shot. Maybe a little curvature to it too. A little wanted magic on it. But
I mean, just be told. I don't know. I think because there's only one time later on that we see him use his optic blast, and I'm not sure exactly how he triggers it. if he has like a visor or if he but
I'm open.
But another point though to add to it is that like once Scott becomes woke, he's like, why are we married?
Which you were right. You were just about to go on. You know, he walks up in here. Emma, honey, what's going on? What's with the colorful guests we have all in the living room? Layla action. Oh, what the shit? We're married?
Yeah.
Which, Scott, I wouldn't complain, bud. Come on.
Right, that's true.
Come on, Emma Frost.
He has a thing for telepaths, man. I don't know if I could be with a telepath.
Oh, hell no.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone
I don't care how hot they are or how much they love to show off their cleavage. You know,
Right.
Come on.
I don't know if anyone could be with a telepath. That's a hard relationship.
Well, at the same time, it's a hard relationship, but
I mean, I'm not. It's not even the honesty factor. It's the factor that you can see everything that's going on in my mind.
that's true. At that point, it's like, look, we gotta set some ground rules and don't break them, because at this point, it's all in your court.
Right.
But give me some privacy in my mind, okay? You know.
Think about like the inevitable fights that they would have. Oh, that'd be terrible.
Oh, that would be terrible. You'd have no hand. It's like playing poker where they get a hand and every card you get you have to put and reveal to everybody. So there's no bluff capability.
Right.
That's accidentally a good metaphor.
And God forbid that one of you does something that you cheat, and then the telepath one in the relationship. There's no hiding that.
Oh, hell no.
Because if you do something that dishonest, as soon as you come through the door, oh, you did what?
Or even think about cheating.
Oh,
That's the worst. Like you go to the gym, you see someone very attractive doing their workout, running treadmill, whatever have you, and you're just like, oh man, that was. Oh no. Oh damn, it's too late.
I think that, and once again, we're going way too deep into this.
We are,
but I think that a telepath, an experienced telepath like Jean Grey or Emma, I don't think that they, especially Emma, I don't think that they much care if you look at someone else and go, man, she's hot. I think that they only care like if you make the decision to act on that,
right, or entertain the thought too much. You know. Plus, again, I go back to it. Emma Frost.
Right.
Come on.
Yeah.
Done deal.
Yeah. There's nothing else to think about.
You have the Snow Queen.
Exactly.
All right? Just you have the best parking spot in the lot, man. Okay. You're not getting a better spot.
All right.
You can't crash into the wall and say, I'm parking, bruh.
Oh, man.
I'm sorry, I gotta. I'm saving that one. The parking spot analogy.
No one laughs at their own jokes as much as Kevin.
I love it. If you can't laugh at your own shit, then what are you doing? And that includes laughing at yourself. All right.
So at this point, once they awaken Emma and Scott, they're like, okay, we got to get a team together. So they go and they get Kitty Pryde, they get Spider-Man, and I want to talk a little bit about Spider-Man because his is
rough.
His was really rough. I think Spider-Man took it the hardest out of everybody.
Yeah.
And so basically they ran into Spider-Man at the park. Spider-Man, he's with his wife, who's Gwen Stacy, his young son, and both his Aunt May and his Uncle Ben. Because Uncle Ben is alive here as well. Yeah. This is super interesting and intricate.
It really is. This opens up another moral dilemma. Mm-hmm. Like, if you're in an alternate reality or a second reality, where everything in this time is everything that you ever wanted, the things that you might even take for granted that you don't want to live without, like your closest family relationships being alive and well, like the girl of your dreams being married to you, and you're in a happy...
And also alive.
Exactly. And also... Damn, that applies. And, you're in a happy, awesome relationship with, a family coming out, and all this is working, and then someone tells you, hey, this isn't the reality that's meant for you, buddy. In this other reality that is meant for you, they're all dead. She's dead. He never existed. Right. And
now we're going to talk about Jessica Drew's very vivid comments in a little bit.
Jessica Drew?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because she says some very deep things before they embark on the mission.
In that panel, yes.
But,
Okay, cool.
but before we get there, though, just looking at Spider-Man here, he's the prime example of the heroes, for the most part, getting everything that they want.
Yeah.
Spider-Man is definitely one of them. And it reveals a lot about the characters, because this shows us that as much as Spider-Man loves Mary Jane, if he had the option, he would want to still be with Gwen Stacy.
Yeah, and that is a very intricate subject that only few have ever had the unfortunate, lifespan of experiencing. And it's rough. Like there's no real consoling for that.
Right.
It's just talking it out and
then on top of that,
life,
Mary
really.
Jane in this reality, she's successful. She's a successful actress that's off doing movies with Wonder Man.
Exactly. She's arguably in a better life without you.
Yeah.
So
and Peter Parker is living the life that he wants. He gets to be Spider-Man and he gets to be a dad.
So literally, he probably has the roughest of it when he realizes
does.
that all of that's bullshit, and not only is it bullshit, and they're all unfortunately passed away, but you're with your second favorite girl and bringing her down all along with it.
Right.
So
you don't have a son, which I'm not a father, but I can't even imagine the kind of blow that psychologically that would deal to somebody.
Yeah.
That your son isn't supposed to exist. Gwen Stacy, she's supposed to be dead. Your Uncle Ben, supposed to be dead. Your dual identity of Spider-Man and Peter Parker, supposed to be kept a secret, not public.
Right.
Like, all of that just came shattering down on Spider-Man.
Exactly. Recreating who the hell he is. Making this alternate reality version of himself non-existent at all. Like, this entire character just puffed away.
Right.
With like a Thanos snap. He's gone, you know?
Think about it. In this life, he's not the one that's being hounded by J. Jonah Jameson. He's not the one that's being perceived as the vigilante or criminal.
Yeah.
He's the one that people love. Oh, look, it's Spider-Man.
There's a fan club of him.
Yeah, he has a fan club and everything.
A Peter Parker fan club.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's pretty sad to see Pete like this. And it takes a little pep talk between him and Wolverine to get him up and going.
Yeah.
Because it's pretty rough on Peter. They get Kitty Pryde, they get Spider-Man, they get the entire Red Guard, so that's Jessica Drew, Nightcrawler, Rogue, Toad, and Mystique. They get She-Hulk, they get Daredevil, and they get some others. They get Doctor Strange.
Classic. You need him.
You need him. Yeah. If anything, if we learn anything, that if you're gonna battle Wanda, you need like a strong telepath and someone with the mystic arts.
Exactly. You're probably gonna need two telepaths so you can tag them in and out.
Right. Matter of fact, you probably should have found Brother Voodoo, someone else who was empowered in the mystic arts.
Exactly.
With you.
Two of every kind.
Right. So they officially get their team together. And it's at this point where we go to the viewpoint of Eric, Magneto, and he's getting ready for a big gala in his name to commemorate him freeing the world from the Homo sapiens and making the Homo superior the elect race of people.
Yeah.
So at this gala, he's going to have a bunch of big names coming through. Queen Ororo, who is Storm, King T'Challa. There's going to be Namor, King of Atlantis, and Dr. Doom or Victor Von Doom, King of Latveria.
And these people, these superpowered beings, are the world leaders.
Yeah.
And I mean, who better? You know? I mean,
it's true.
Come on,
And so as the guests are getting ready to arrive, Magneto, he's looking upon a commemorative grave site for Charles Xavier.
Yeah.
And I don't know what that means, because there's something to be said here. Charles can't be dead. And I don't want to spoil anything, but we found out later that,
Right.
Yeah. But for the sake of the story, though, honestly, guys, I got to be honest. I'm just going ahead and tell you here and now. We don't see him for the rest of the story.
Nope. The closest thing we get to him is the idea of him and this memorial little rock garden.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for all intents and purposes, he is at least missing, presumed dead.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, yeah, he's looking upon the gravesite of Charles Xavier, and that's kind of like the big shocking factor for that specific chapter. At the beginning of the next chapter, we see him. She's using her powers to sneak onto a shield helicarrier, to sneak the entire team onto a helicarrier, and to travel to Genosha. And it's on their way to Genosha where they're getting ready for this battle. They're all talking about how fucked up it is that Magneto would do something like this. And it's at this point where Jessica Drew, Spider-Woman, she begins to make a really good point. And despite what Wolverine says, I'm sorry, Wolverine, but you got to look at this from her perspective too. No.
I mean, her perspective is the most blatant, powerful thing on this page.
Yeah,
it really is.
I'm so glad that they had the balls to include that in here,
right?
Because I feel like a lesser story or a lesser writer wouldn't want to include that because it feels like it would lessen the impact, but it doesn't. No, it does the opposite.
They'd be fearful that bringing that up would overcomplicate or saturate the story or whatever the hell. No, they use it so well here.
Yeah.
Really. Yeah. They use it more so as the peak, really, of the philosophical side of this story. And it's amazing, really.
And the most amazing thing about it is that they don't really give us an answer or a strong resolution.
No.
Per
they
se.
just walk right back into it.
But they do introduce the idea and leave it up to the readers to decide what would be the best thing to do.
Yeah.
So essentially what's happening here is that as they're traveling to Genosha, getting ready to face Magneto, Jessica, she gets up and she goes, "Hey guys, wait a minute. So we realized that we were taken advantage of and that Magneto used his daughter to reshape reality. But think about it, guys. We kind of have everything we've ever wanted. I don't know about all you guys, but I think it's safe to say that we all are living better lives now than we were before reality was reshaped.
Yeah.
So maybe we deserve this. Maybe we deserve this win. Like, maybe it's best that things are the way that they are now."
Yeah, and she goes on to say maybe this is how the mutant race was supposed to become the dominant race. Maybe this is just the way we should leave it. And Wolverine, it's so strange here, because you're right. He does retort, but he kind of doesn't at the same time. All he says is, "Jessica, one day you're going to be really embarrassed that you just said that out loud," And he follows it up by saying essentially the same thing over again, but he doesn't ever really tell her, "You're wrong," And that's the interesting thing. No one does. Everyone in the next little picture here is looking around blankly like, is no one going to say anything?
Right. You know, it's almost like, if I were in one of their shoes, I would honestly probably think, "I wish that you didn't wake me up." Because
exactly. That's the problem. That's what I was going to say eventually here. Because, I mean, Spider-Man, again, becomes a perfect example. Why bother talking about this, Jessica? It's a great damn point, and it deserved to be brought up. But
you can never forget.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Spider-Man's not going to forget that he had Mary Jane and everyone died and no one here really, really existed, but they only do in this alternate reality now that you're aware of is the pseudo-reality.
Right.
To label it, So, can you really ever go back to the happiness? Or are you stuck in limbo? Are you stuck knowing this is one world and I came from another?
Yeah.
Because in that case, Wolverine wasn't right, but what he says brings a lot more light to the topic, saying, now you're going to be embarrassed you said this because, I mean, can we ever really go back?
Yeah, and who knows? Maybe that's what Wolverine meant. It's hard to say.
I mean, it's hard to say what he meant, because I doubt his character can, in this time frame, go that deep into the font, because there's faces even like Doctor Strange here who's just like speechless. Like, I have no fight in this court. I'm just going to zip it up.
Doctor Strange doesn't know what to say. Neither does Cyclops at this point.
Yeah, and who knows? Maybe Wolverine did have that understanding. I'm not going to give it to him. Instead, I'm just going to say it was left to us as the reader to decide, and that was what was so artfully done on this page.
Yeah.
Because,
I think, what if you were in that position? What if you woke up tomorrow, Kevin, and you had the life that you subconsciously always wanted? And then somewhere down the line, like the next day, you realize that not that it was a lie, but you came from somewhere else.
I would do everything I could to block myself out, to forget the memory, really. Because in this world, I'm married to the hottest chick I know.
Right.
And it's like, well, hell yeah, man. How you doing, babe? What's going on?
You do what you love for a living. You're probably filthy rich. You have everything that you want. I mean,
exactly.
Yeah.
That's what the key thing is. The key ingredient, everything I'd want in reality, you know? Like, yeah, at that point, you'd be like, I'm sorry, I'm not going to entertain this notion. You're full of shit, all right? And now I want a security team. Oh, there they are. They're going to take you away.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because it's not like you don't have your friends or family in that reality.
Right.
You have the ones that you want. But yeah, so I thought that was a really, poignant question to bring up, just because
it really is.
If most people were faced with that type of reality, I mean, because another factor to think about is that, in a lot of cases, the trials in our lives kind of shape who we are and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So it's like, let's say that I'm not putting this on you at all.
Oh, no, you're good.
God forbid. But let's say that, a tragic event in your life led to you finding the love of your life. But in this perfect world, that tragedy wouldn't happen. So maybe you don't find her, but you find subconsciously what you think would be the best replacement. So it's kind of a tricky question, because I mean, it's all subjective as to what happiness is.
It really is at that point. Yeah, and it's also subjective because what you're saying is true. We become different people in these realities. For instance, this Peter Parker even looked different.
He does. Yeah.
He was bald and he looked bigger, and he
he probably had more money for food.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, he wasn't some poor looking college kid just trying to make it by on newspaper money.
Yeah.
So yeah, we become different people. Like, I wouldn't be Kevin Keister. I'd be a different Kevin Keister, you know? And who knows what else would come with that? I can't even fathom the idea. It's an easy well to keep diving deeper into.
It is.
Yeah.
And then it gets to the point where you think, well, how long does this happiness last? Because is there happiness without, some type of tribulation?
Oh,
like,
shit.
because if every day is just the happiest day of your life, then eventually it's going to wear off.
You grow stale.
You grow stale. And then that happiness kind of dwells down. It's like a fool's paradise.
Mm-hmm.
You can't really have or experience that kind of prolonged happiness without, something to disrupt it.
Exactly. I mean, there's literally no growth at this point. You're just being cradled until you die.
Right.
And that's horrible. That sounds dreadful, really, you know? Because I'm a badass and I want to stay a badass, and that's the way it is. But,
yeah,
I mean...
so that's just like a cool moral dilemma that we wanted to bring up to all you homies. And
really, this was the moral dilemma. Was they painted the scenario for us, and then they finally got to the big what if question. Like, so which reality is true? If this one is true, would you want to know about the other? And that really is the huge philosophical textbook question that they're asking here.
Right.
Yeah, and it's great how they do it. Daggum, is it good?
It is. And I think it's really interesting that they give us this question. They put this question at our feet right at like the climax of the story. Like right as we enter into the third and final act of the story.
Yeah.
It's just like, well, think on that, or here comes the big climactic fight.
Exactly. Like, hey, here's the real thing here, and guess what? Our heroes don't spell it out for you. They just walk right back into, okay, so 3 teams, and then they just tell the story. Yeah.
They just kind of set it aside, like, well, I mean,
we have to try.
Right.
3 teams, let's do the shit. Oh, Spidey went to cry. You know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it kind of also makes you wonder, like, after that kind of talk, maybe subconsciously some of them wouldn't even try as hard,
Maybe, and that's a whole nother subject. But it is definitely a deeper side of that same thing you're bringing up. Mm-hmm. Maybe some of them never really did go back to their reality.
Yeah,
But
yeah, moving on with the story here.
Definitely, we're definitely gonna make this a 3-hour podcast. Good luck, listeners.
Yeah. So back at Genosha. at the big gala that the House of M is having. The families, they're all kind of taking the photo op. Is Magneto, is of course Pietro and Wanda and Lorna, aka Polaris. They're all there. And actually, they're taking pictures, for the paparazzi. A giant ass Sentinel is hurled right at Magneto's face, and Magneto, in badass fashion, he stops the Sentinel like inches from him.
I know,
and
right?
then just tosses it aside, like almost effortlessly too.
Which classic Magneto, man. He always was a powerhouse of his power.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
So he throws it to the side. And at this point, we have Layla, Cloak, and Emma at one team, and they're all looking for Professor X, or Wanda, whoever they can find. They find the grave site for Professor X. Cloak dives down in the grave and comes back up and realizes that, hey, look, Professor X isn't down here, so he could still be here somewhere.
Yeah. Dun dun dun.
Yeah, and meanwhile, like most of the team, they're all fighting. Like everyone at the gala, everyone who's not woke. So it's a big melee going on here, and it's really fun and cool to watch. But as far as the story goes, what happens next is that Doctor Strange, he realizes that Wanda was not actually down there at the gala. She was off somewhere else, and he finds her. She is once again like playing with her children and all that, and they're having a grand old time. And Doctor Strange is actually able to get through to Wanda a little bit. She reveals via flashbacks that this whole thing was actually Pietro's idea. It wasn't Magneto's, it was Pietro's idea.
Which, first time I read this, became a huge twist. Like,
Yeah.
oh.
Right.
Which only made the ending that much
That
more
much-
awesome.
yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And
Can't
so what happens now is that before Doctor Strange can ask Wanda where Professor X is, she is shot in the back with an arrow. Hawkeye has come back. And this is equally sad and just damn,
I know, right?
because Hawkeye, he's finally come to face with his true reality, which is he's dead. He was dead. And Wanda, she's so out of it that she can't even comprehend what she did.
Yeah.
Because in her mind, it's okay, I brought you back, But he's like, no, you killed me. Why did you kill me?
Exactly. And that's the worst. You're aware that you were killed by someone you loved.
Right.
Like, what the hell else do you do? How do you move on from that? You know?
Yeah.
What's the comeback game?
Right.
But I guess in his mind, the comeback game is and just arrow to the back.
Right. I mean, he was adding like completely on emotion. But she just basically freaking dissolves him. Like building blocks of Hawkeye are all just disintegrated.
Yeah.
And so poor Hawkeye technically dies again.
How many times has this bastard died?
Yeah, it was pretty bad. And so poor Hawkeye, he's gone again. So what happens next is Doctor Strange, he's able to or technically Layla, she goes and she awakens Magneto.
Which, damn good reaction time.
Really good reaction
Magneto
time.
is about to rip you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's a really good thing you did what you did.
Yeah. Which, whatever the hell, however you do it.
Yeah. And Magneto, like, you think that everyone else was pissed and upset when they found out? Oh no. Magneto was pissed.
This is one of my favorite moments in the whole book.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Oh man, like the sheer fury.
I know. I love what he says. The text alone is the dialogue I was referring to earlier. What have you done with my name, boy?
Yeah.
What
have you done with my name?
I know, right? Just amazing shit. Like, oh man. And then he just keeps going on and makes it better. Like, you've destroyed everything and everyone, and you used my name to do it.
Yeah.
What right? And he's just ripping into his own son.
Into his own son,
who technically has his name, but not his actual name. Like, ouch.
And then, like, he just pummels him, like, with freaking beams and just whatever he can summon.
He doesn't hold back.
No, he does not. Yeah, and he damn near kills Pietro.
Yeah.
But Wanda comes on the scene and she, pities and loves her brother. She revives Pietro. And if you thought what Magneto just did was extreme, oh no. What happens next is extreme.
Yeah.
Wanda, she looks at her father and she goes, "We're freaks."
Well, first she takes his mouth away.
Oh, yeah,
Which,
yeah.
like, what?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she goes, "We're freaks, we're mutants. You chose this over us and you ruined us. Daddy, no more mutants."
Yeah.
And just like that, the next thing that we know as far as we're aware, the world is set back in place.
Yeah. She became something more powerful than the power gauntlet in the movie Infinity War.
Basically.
Yeah. Like, not only did she just destroy everything, but she reset everything. You know? Which, holy shit.
Yeah.
No one should be born with that much power.
No.
Yeah.
So when she said no more mutants, that caused a giant divot.
A huge cataclysmic explosion of alternate reality shit. Like,
Yeah.
now, which one are we in now? Number 3, technically?
Yeah. So we're brought back to the 616 universe, the mainstream Marvel universe, except now it is changed for the worse, especially for the mutants.
Yeah.
So the world is technically set back into place, and come to find out, only those who were in close proximity to either Emma or Doctor Strange remember what happened.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah. So everyone else that wasn't, they don't remember. And that must be so frustrating to go through that ordeal and then to remember it all. And then there's some people that don't.
Exactly.
Like, for them, it's got to be, I would want to be one of the people that don't remember.
Exactly. Like, Tony Stark, for instance, he's
Yeah.
one of the ones like, what are you guys talking about?
Yeah.
You know?
Because technically, he wasn't even there. Like,
Yeah.
we don't see him. He was there.
Exactly.
But,
He wasn't in proximity, thus
Right.
he's gone, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, damn.
Yeah, Luke Cage, like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or even worse, Mary Jane.
Yeah.
You know? So all of a sudden when Spidey comes back, she's like, everything's back to normal, and he's still living this tortured dual life of knowing. Oh, shit.
Yeah, poor Spider-Man, he almost loses it here too.
Yeah.
Because there's a point where he's talking to Doctor Strange and Spider-Man goes, "Put it back." Doctor Strange goes, "I can't." And Spider-Man just goes, "No, put it back."
Exactly.
And, like, it's just
That
snaps.
that was intense. Like,
Yeah.
hey, I don't suppose you can magic it up and, take all this out of my head,
Yeah.
please, It doesn't work like that, buddy. No,
Right.
you can do it. I have faith in you. No, it just can't be done, Mother, do it. You're gonna do it. You're the mother son of a guilty bitch.
Yeah. Spider-Man has a really rough go of it, man.
Yeah.
And so what's interesting now is that we're seeing the chaos from the Avengers viewpoint.
Yeah.
Now we see the chaos from the X-Men's viewpoint.
And that is fascinating. That's where the details of Bendis' writing really comes into play here artistically as well.
Oh, yeah. So we go to the X-Mansion, and they are in complete and utter turmoil. Most of the students are running around. They're crying. They don't know what's happening. They're sick. They're feverish. They have lost their powers.
Yep.
The strain of the X gene is like faded away, and is now non-functioning.
Exactly. So all the kids who even looked non-human are all human
Right,
now.
yeah.
And it's just a bunch of different... It's a school full of just kids. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then the icing on the cake, poor Bobby Drake.
Yeah. That kid got a different blunt
Yeah.
of it all. Like, you...
Yeah, Bobby Drake lost his powers. And Emma, she even uses Cerebra to scan the world for the mutant populace. Mm-hmm. And she realizes that they're all there, but none of them are actively mutated. None of them have their powers.
Yep.
All the abilities are gone. And it's at this point where we realize that there's not that many mutants left.
It was a hard reset, which honestly, from a back out, looking at this all from the huge perspective of things, was a really creative move for the company Marvel to do on their own universe. It really just kind of narrowed the scope some into easier to control storytelling methods. You know, and that's cool.
Yeah, and that's why they did it. They had cheeses in charge at Marvel. They were like, the mutant populace has kind of gotten really big. Let's reel it in some and bring it back.
Right. And so they could have done that in a really poor, just whatever. Oh, because we're the overlords and we said so. Whatever.
Yeah,
The
it could have been
Watcher
like
came down and said no.
It could have been another T virus. You know, it could have been.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but no. Instead, they went a really unique route.
They gave us a great story.
They did.
Yeah.
Now, what's interesting is that I'm not really sure as to why some mutants didn't lose their powers. But definitely most did, because it's theorized that there were nearly 1 million mutants on Earth. Yeah. And now, if you guys move forward a little bit and read like Endangered Species or Messiah Complex, we realize that there's only like 230 something mutants left on the Earth. So they go from 1 million to just over 200.
Yep.
So that population really did just die off. I mean, like, how do you restart in the mutant population after this? But what's also just extremely cool too is kind of like the final scenes that we get here in the story. So the X-Men, they fly out to Genosha to confront Magneto and to get some answers. Yeah. Where's Charles? Where's Pietro? Where's Wanda? What's happening? But Magneto has no answers, and he himself is depowered.
Yeah, and that itself is a strange thing to see. But, I mean, of all the people you want to depower, Wanda in that moment was like, oh, the hell with you, daddy, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean...
Right. And, you know, what's interesting also is that the only reason that Wolverine left him alive is because he thinks that it's a worse fate for Magneto to live the rest of his days as a human.
It really is. I mean, of all the people who doesn't like humanity at all, he's, like, top 5 of the list, man.
Yeah.
He really is. Yeah. Shit. And then just before that, also we have the little insert about the fate of Hawkeye as well, which I think is interesting to talk about.
That was interesting. Yeah, lead us through that.
So one thing that the team also does is that they go back and they're looking at the old mansion and they're sitting there thinking like, well, are there any things here? You know, oh wait, there's someone actually at the mansion. Who is this? You know, and then they go and they see this pinned up Hawkeye suit, the classic purple one with his quiver and his bow, just leaning up on some debris and whatnot.
Was it pinned to the wall, or
there's a newspaper pinned to the wall? Right, and the newspaper it says Hawkeye dead, mystery surrounds the hero's fallen fate. And the only thing that we get, because they don't say anything, but the costume's pinned up. There's no body anywhere. The weaponry, the quiver, the arrows, the actual bow are laying off to the side. They're placed there, and then you see Captain America just kind of smirking with, you know, Carol Danvers like, what does all this mean? What does it mean? And no one answers the question.
Yeah.
So it leaves us as the readers to interpret, well, shit.
Yeah.
I wonder who put that there, you know?
Yeah.
But
it is interesting. Spoiler alert, Hawkeye, he does come back.
Again.
It's much later on in Brian Michael Bendis' run on the New Avengers. Yeah. But he goes through quite the existential crisis dealing with everything that happened to him. And it's
understandably
really,
so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a really fun to read, though.
Yeah.
But I guess just back here, just to wrap up this story. So essentially what happens next is that we see Wanda. She's off somewhere, but she's happy and she's healthy and she's smiling. And we don't really know exactly where she is or what she's up to. But you can tell that she's someplace where she wants to be left alone from those that previously knew her.
Yep.
We don't even know the state of her mind right now.
Not really. No. Yeah. I mean, we see her in what looks like some shopping bazaar or marketplace and whatnot, and she's just wearing classic red colors like herself and like daggum Red Riding Hood looking, you know, just walking around people, shopping, looking normal, and the panel keeps scoping out like a giant camera zooming out of her. And that's
Well, we get something also that's really deep that I really would like to discuss also at the very end.
Ooh, please do.
Hank Pym is being interviewed by some interviewer about the state of mutant kind and what Hank Pym thinks, because of course Hank Pym is closely associated with mutants, and he's also a really brilliant mind.
Right.
And so they're trying to get his thoughts on the matter about what happened to all the mutants. And Hank Pym, his response is really cool. He goes, basically, I don't know what happened to all the mutants. But what I'm also curious about is what happened to that energy. And then he references Newton's law about, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. And he goes, so the action was all these mutants lost their powers. They're all depowered. My question is, what's going to be the reaction to this? Where'd the power go? And then as we completely zoom out, we see like this energy type beam formed around the Earth. As he asked that question, as he asked, what's the reaction to the mutants losing the power?
Which is a damn creative cliffhanger ending.
It is. Do you guys know the answer? Yeah, you want to know the answer. Yeah.
I'm sitting there thinking like, you got to tell them now.
So what happens is that latent mutant energy, all that power, it's actually transferred to a guy named Michael Pointer, I believe is his name. And he was a mutant that didn't know he was a mutant. He was a postman up in Alaska, and that power comes down into him. And his power is basically that he can, in a sense, absorb like mutant essence and power, but he absorbs all of it, and he becomes an entity known as the Collector. This is also in the New Avengers run as well, and they have to do battle with him. But no, that's a really fun run because he goes toe to toe with the Sentry, Iron Man, and all the Avengers, Miss Marvel.
I mean, he collects all the powers.
All that power.
So, I mean, does that mean he can use the abilities as well? Like, are there certain things he can...
He became more of a force of nature and not a thinking, conscious person.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So he...
Shit. Yeah. Eventually, they were able to expel the energy from him, most of it. I think that this is actually how Magneto got his powers back.
Oh, okay.
I think so.
Okay.
But he did keep some of the power, and he became a hero actually afterwards.
Okay.
Yep. He named himself Omega, and I think he called himself Omega because he, when he first became the Collective with all that power, he killed like the entire Alpha Force. So I think he kind of did it as a little bit of a homage to them.
I can see that. Yeah. That makes sense.
Damn. But yeah, so that's the House of M, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of my favorites.
Oh yeah, like it should be one of everybody's favorite. I think that like everybody who maybe likes the movies or likes comics in general should maybe read this one at least once because it does really beg you to ask a lot of really cool questions.
Oh yeah. Plus you see a lot more into the characters that the movies don't really have the time or the power to go into for us,
Right.
So the movie follows the script and whatever the producer says is law, whereas this goes so in depth, so creatively, while still telling this great and fascinating story.
Yeah.
It is worth the read, ladies and gentlemen. Go ahead and get yourself a copy or borrow it from a friend like I did.
Yeah. So let me ask you one last question before we close, Kevin.
Hit me.
What do you think are the chances of us seeing this on the big screen in some capacity, and how do you think they could adapt such a material?
I think about that often.
Yeah.
I really do. Whenever I plan out the MCU as if I was daggum Kevin Feige, not Kevin Keister, I'm sitting there thinking to myself like, well, I mean, this is what's happening in the red tape world of the MCU and the Disney universe and everything. So it's like, well, maybe we could do this. And I pray that this movie happens. I really do.
Yeah.
Is it likely to happen? Not soon. No. Nowhere near soon. Right. But I did think of a cute little oversimplified way for Avengers 4 to end, thus beginning the next overarch. Remember, Thanos was a villain for this past 10-year arch that we created, beginning with Iron Man and leading all into this recent movie here, Now we can set our second overarch leading into the House of M. It was something along the lines of like, I can't remember. At the end of Avengers, this movie, she quote unquote tries to bring Vision back, type thing. And then Captain America's like, Wanda, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And it's kind of like a little Easter egg shout out to us, but really a seed being planted for like this, the beginning of her deteriorating mind and the complication that's going to ensue and all this great stuff, you know. But there's a lot of depth that they'd have to reach for the House of M to be well done on screen.
Right.
And so that's another worry that I pray never happens.
Yeah. Well, I think that they could adapt this story about as well as they adapted Civil War.
Oh, don't say that, dude.
Well, I mean, like there's good and bad to that. You know, there's give and take. But I think that they could use this more as a platform to introduce the mutants rather than take them away. Like for example, I think that maybe a couple movies from now, when like the deal is said and done,
Right.
with Fox and Marvel, I think that, you know, maybe like you said, she could be lamenting the loss of Vision, maybe try to bring him back, and they try to talk her out of it,
Right.
and then she changes the reality, and in this new reality we have mutants, and then, you know, maybe the climactic act of is them battling whoever is controlling Wanda or something to that capacity, and when reality is reset, we still have the mutants.
I could see something like that. That it would be interesting to see how they do it to get the audiences to follow. Because remember,
Right.
they're still writing not for comic fans alone, but you know, moviegoers who don't really know the depth of these stories, like we've just discussed.
That's very true. I think that they'd have a leg up a little bit in the sense of that people, even if you don't read comics, most people still know who the X-Men are or Fantastic Four to some capacity.
Right.
They know that these are Marvel comic book characters.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
I think
that's
that,
something.
Yeah. So, like,
But I mean, the idea of teaching them and showing them that we just jumped alternate realities this many times, you know, you know. So hopefully, there's not too much spoon feeding there, you know. But we'll see.
And it's probably something that would have to be like Infinity War and cover a couple movies, not just one.
Exactly. That's how I would want it done. You
Yeah.
know, because there's a lot of meat here, and it all deserves attention.
It does.
Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, guys. So that's going to be our House of M review. This was a good one, guys.
A damn good one.
Yeah. If we don't say so ourselves.
Conceited.
But yeah, we hope that you guys enjoyed this one as well. But of course, before we leave, we got to do a little bit of you know, cleanup here and self-advertisement.
Hey, good timing to do that.
Oh yeah. So actually, guys, depending on when you're listening to this, we may or may not have up our Patreon review of Star Wars: A Han Solo movie.
Yeah.
We're recording and posting this late Wednesday night. So by the time you guys are listening to this, we are probably in the theater watching Han Solo, getting ready to podcast on that.
Exactly.
So if you're going to be interested in listening to some of our non-superhero related material, then you can go to patreon.com and search for Superhero Homies. And there you'll be able to find all of our Patreon material. For $1 a month, you can get all of our new movie reviews that are non-superhero related.
Yep.
So Jurassic World, Incredibles 2, a Han Solo movie, A Quiet Place, and much, much more. You can get all of that for just $1 a month. Or if you're interested in even more of our material, then for just $3 a month, you can get all of our new movie reviews, new video game reviews. We'll be covering Detroit Become Human really soon.
Yep.
You can get all of our cult classic reviews. We just did The Big Lebowski not too long ago. And also all of our TV show reviews as well. We recently did Rick and Morty.
Oh, yeah.
And so you guys can get all of that and more for just $3 a month.
Heck
so,
yeah.
If you guys are interested, which I know you are, then you can go to patreon.com and search for Superhero Homies and help your homies out some.
Exactly. And then something else you can do, if you also just love the Superhero Homies page in general, feel free to go to the Facebook page, give us a great rating, or if you really, really appreciate us, feel free to go into iTunes and give us a 5-star or more rating if possible, you know, at your pleasure, of course. But we'd really appreciate it. We'd grow from it. The base and the fandom can also continue to sprout and grow and become, you know, Earth-dominating forces like we want to be. But really, guys, we'd appreciate everything you do for us, you know, so feel free to share this and let others join the bandwagon as well and let them listen to the homies. Show them with them the Facebook page, email us, give us a comment, let us know what you're thinking. We love hearing from you.
Absolutely. That's going to be it for tonight, guys. When we come back
yeah.
Sunday, we're going to be discussing the current state of the DCEU, the DC cinematic entertainment universe. So there's going to be a really deep and introspective podcast.
Yeah,
sure.
Definitely talking about the differences, especially between our friends Marvel and DC.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
But that's going to be it for tonight, guys, and we will see you Sunday. Till then, I'm Quentin.
I'm Kevin.
Till next time.